The bear cub waited at the burned cabin every night. The truth will break your heart. The cabin had been nothing more than a blackened skeleton for years. Its charred beams leaned at odd angles, the roof had long since caved in, and weeds pushed stubbornly through the ashen ground. To most in the nearby village, it was a place avoided, a ruin with whispers attached. They said the cabin was cursed, that whoever went too close could still hear the cries of the family who had lived there before the fire took them. But as winter settled over the valley, something strange began to happen. Night after night, a figure appeared at the ruins. At first, it was nothing more than a shadow moving among the trees, seen from a distance by those walking the path at dusk. Then one evening, a villager swore they saw a small bear cub sitting squarely in front of the burned cabin, as though it were standing guard. The story spread quickly. People spoke of the cub at the tavern, shaking their heads. Some said the animal had gone mad, clinging to the site of some imagined memory. Others whispered more fearful tales, that the cub was a spirit in disguise, haunting the land where humans and animals had perished together. But the cub kept coming back. Always at the same time, just as the sun slid behind the peaks. It would pad through the snow, settle itself in front of the cabin's remains, and sit. Sometimes it let out a low, aching cry that echoed through the valley like a question with no answer. Other times it simply watched, eyes fixed on the ruins as if waiting for someone, or something, to return. And though most kept their distance, one man could not look away. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. He needed to know why. The man who watched was named Elias, a woodcarver who lived on the edge of the village. He had seen the bear cub himself, sitting solemnly at the burned cabin, its small frame shivering against the winter wind. The sight unsettled him. He knew animals lingered near familiar places, but this was different. The cub wasn't searching for food, nor did it seem lost. It was waiting. Elias began to ask questions around the village, though most people shook their heads. "Leave it be," warned the baker, eyes darting toward the dark outline of the forest. "That place brings nothing but sorrow." But not everyone dismissed him. Old Mrs. Hanley, the village seamstress, lowered her voice when Elias asked. "That cabin once belonged to the Rowans," she said. "A kind family. Always left bread out for strays, even the wild animals. They were different." She hesitated before adding, "The fire came suddenly. One stormy night, lightning struck the roof. By morning, there was nothing left but ash." Elias frowned. "And the family?" Her eyes clouded. "Gone. Some say they never made it out. Others, well, some believe the fire wasn't natural at all." She shook her head, refusing to say more. The stories only deepened Elias's unease. Why would a bear cub return to that particular cabin, night after night? Unless it wasn't random at all. Unless the cub remembered something. One evening, Elias followed at a distance as the cub appeared again. Its paws crunched softly in the snow, its dark eyes reflecting the orange glow of the setting sun. It walked with purpose, straight to the ruins, and sat. Elias stood hidden among the pines, heart thudding. He didn't know why yet, but he felt certain. The cub's vigil was tied to the fire, and to the family who had once called that place home. The more Elias watched, the more he realized the cub's visits were no accident. Each evening, just before darkness swallowed the valley, the young bear appeared. Its path never changed. It came down the same slope, crossed the frozen stream, and padded directly to the ruins of the burned cabin. There, it would sit as though rooted to the earth. Sometimes the cub would sniff the scorched beams, circling the spot where the hearth once stood. Other times, it clawed gently at the ground, turning over blackened soil with a persistence that seemed too purposeful for such a young creature. And every so often, it would let out a mournful cry, high and thin, the kind of sound that made Elias's chest ache just to hear it. Elias wasn't the only one who noticed. A few villagers, braver than most, began to sneak glances from the tree line. "It's waiting for something," one whispered. Or someone. Children whispered of ghostly families and animal spirits, while their parents dragged them away before curiosity turned dangerous. But Elias couldn't walk away. Night after night, he returned, staying hidden as the cub carried out its strange ritual. He sketched the animal in his notebook, capturing its hunched posture, its sorrowful eyes, its claws scratching through soot as though trying to uncover something long buried. On the fourth night, the cub pressed its small nose against a charred timber and whimpered softly, as if remembering a scent now fading with time. The sound pierced the silence of the clearing, sending chills up Elias's spine. This wasn't random. The cub wasn't lost, it was grieving. For what, Elias didn't yet know. But the way the cub's eyes lingered on the ashes made it clear, whatever had been lost in that fire, the animal still felt its absence. Elias's curiosity deepened into determination. He had to find out what held the cub to this haunted place. Snow fell heavier that night, blanketing the meadow in a pale glow. Elias crouched in the trees, breath clouding in front of him, as the cub once again approached the burned cabin. But this time, something was different. Instead of simply sitting, the cub began to dig with a desperate energy. Its small paws scraped at the frozen ground, scattering ash and splinters of blackened wood. It grunted softly, pushing deeper, as if certain something lay hidden beneath the ruins. Elias's heart pounded. He edged closer, careful not to startle the animal. The cub didn't notice. It was too intent on its task. The sound of claws against frozen earth echoed sharply in the night air. Then Elias saw it, something pale glinting in the mix of ash and soil. The cub nosed at it, whining, before pulling free a small charred object. Elias squinted through the swirling snow. It wasn't food. It wasn't bone. It was a locket. The cub set it gently on the ground, pressing its nose against it as though recognizing the scent. Elias crept nearer, finally close enough to see the details through the soot. The locket's clasp was broken, but inside was a faded, scorched photograph. Elias's breath caught. The picture showed a smiling family, the Rowans. And beside them, standing proudly at the edge of the frame, was a large bear. The resemblance was undeniable. The cub digging now was her offspring. Elias's chest tightened as the realization sank in. This wasn't just any bear. Its mother had been tied to the family who lived here, welcomed, perhaps even loved. And when the fire took the cabin, it had taken more than human lives. The cub wasn't haunting the ruins. It was searching for what was left of its family. Elias could barely breathe as he turned the locket over in his hands, the scorched metal still warm from the cub's touch. The faded photograph inside told a story no villager had spoken aloud. The Rowans had not only welcomed the wilderness into their lives, they had bonded with it. That great bear in the image had not been a threat, but a friend. Whispers from the past returned to him, tales of the Rowans leaving scraps of food on their porch, of animals gathering near their cabin without fear. Now Elias understood why. The family had formed a bond with the mother bear, and through her, with this cub. The night of the fire came alive in his mind. He pictured the storm raging, lightning splitting the sky, flames devouring wood faster than any bucket of water could quench. The Rowans trapped inside. And the mother bear, drawn by the cries, rushing into the firelight to save them. Perhaps she clawed at the door, perhaps she even carried one to safety, but she had not survived. Her body must have been lost beneath the falling beams, buried in the ashes before anyone could see. And the cub, too small, too helpless, must have hidden in the forest, watching its world collapse in smoke and flame. Elias's throat tightened. The villagers had spoken of curses, of spirits haunting the ruins. But the truth was far simpler, and far sadder. The cub returned because it remembered. Because this was where it had last seen its mother, its family, both human and animal together. The burned cabin was not cursed. It was a grave. And every night, the cub came back, not out of madness, but out of love. Elias wiped the snow from the locket and whispered to the bear, though it could not understand, "I know now. I see why you wait." Word of Elias's discovery spread quickly through the village. At first, people were skeptical, dismissing the locket as coincidence. But when they saw the photograph inside, the Rowans smiling beside a great bear, their doubts faltered. Silence fell in the tavern that night, heavy and reverent. For the first time, the villagers did not speak of curses or ghosts. Instead, they spoke of love, of the bond between humans and the wild, and of the tragedy that had ended it. The next evening, more people followed Elias into the clearing. They kept their distance, respectful, as the cub once again padded through the snow to sit before the burned cabin. No one dared chase it away. Some even left small offerings, bread, apples, sprigs of pine, laying them gently at the edge of the ruins. Elias placed the locket back on the stump of the old hearth. The cub sniffed it, then pressed its nose to the metal, whimpering softly. For a moment, the villagers swore they felt the weight of grief radiating from the young creature, as real and heavy as their own. Tears glistened in more than one pair of eyes. Hardened men turned away, blinking, while mothers pulled their children close. The truth had pierced something inside them. Over time, the villagers began to treat the site as sacred. They built a small memorial of stones and flowers, not only for the Rowans, but for the bear family as well. The clearing, once feared, became a place of quiet remembrance. And still, the cub came. Not every night, but often enough. It would sit in silence, gaze fixed on the ruins, as if waiting for a world that would never return. Yet in its vigil, the people saw a lesson etched deeper than ash, that animals too remember. They grieve, they love, and they never forget where that love was last alive. And so, in the ashes of a burned cabin, a lonely cub taught the world what humans often forget, that love, once shared, leaves a memory no fire can destroy. Animals do not just survive, they remember, they mourn, and they love. Their hearts carry bonds as deep as ours, and honoring that truth brings us closer to compassion.